And one of the things that we need to look at is that people are giving away their rights slowly but surely, because they are counting, and I mean they are the legislators with an agenda and other people, special interest groups that favor tort reform. They are counting on people like you and me, folks out there who are saying, I can't even fill up my tank with gas. Voting, Proposition 12, sure, it's good for doctors, but you didn't get the whole facts. And we're going to talk about that in another segment, but we didn't get all the facts, and you need to be aware of your rights. And that's why we're pushing for mytexasbar.com. Sites like yours, Abraham Watkins, you even have articles on there about stuff that is educational. We've got a few minutes left, but I want to, we talked about the BP case. What other litigation are you handling first and foremost that's important for the people to know about out there, like products or safety or anything?
Yeah, let me just make a reminder to all folks listening. When we are representing folks that have been injured, a lot of folks think it's workers' comp. We talked about it earlier.
Right.
Workers' compensation is a law in Texas that allows workers to be compensated when they've been injured on the job. However, what many folks don't understand is that there are rights for workers that have been injured on the job if the cause of the accident or the cause of the explosion is a third party or another company outside of your employer.
That's a very
Many
important
folks
point.
don't understand that.
That's a very
and
important
we represent folks that may have a workers' comp claim because they were injured on the job, but the lawsuit or the claim is not really against their employer, it's against the company who caused this. And at a chemical plant, we have that almost always occurring. We also have the rights of folks that they think, well, I'm going to wait to see if I get better. I'm going to wait and see what happens. But in Texas, you have 2 years to file a lawsuit. 2 years. If from the day of the incident, and 2 years later, you haven't filed a claim, you lose all your rights. And it's important that folks understand that when you've been injured, seek legal lawyers, legal advice as soon as possible. The defense or the chemical plants, they're doing their job with their lawyers immediately to investigate.
Oh, yes.
You do the same. You do the same.
And I want to underline that, as Mr. Agosto said, we've got a few minutes left, but I want to underline that what he said is true, that we're not trying to stop companies from making money. It's what makes the world go round. It's what employs people. But if there's unsafe measures out there, as Mr. Agosto has told you all, then there has to be a redress. We can't just give away those rights. We talked about BP. What other cases do you have a passion for that you're working on right now that the general public may want to know about because it's affecting them or could affect their children?
Yeah, we have 2 cases that are the top cases that have been in the news lately with our firm. We have a tour bus that was coming from Mexico City through Monterrey to Houston, Texas. And we've seen those buses going back and forth to Mexico for people visiting families or vacationing. Well, unfortunately, one of those companies hired a driver who had 4 DWIs. And on the way back, one early morning in January from Monterrey, the bus driver lost control, flipped the bus, and 48 folks that were in the bus were injured, including one person who died, one person who lost their arm, and many people that were injured. And we're in the middle of that lawsuit. We're heavy litigating that lawsuit right now. We also have, as an example, so you understand the types of cases that we do, we have an individual who was arrested by the police here in the city of Pasadena, here near Houston, who had a few drinks, was arrested overnight to let the liquor get out of his system. Unfortunately, before he was released, there was an altercation with a couple of police officers, and they beat him up so badly that they killed him. The medical examiner has determined it was homicide by blunt force trauma, and we have filed suit and are investigating the acts of these police officers of brutality against this innocent man. And I always say, when you've done something wrong, the punishment for that should be determined. If you're driving drunk or you're drunk, the punishment should be jail, but it should never be death. In this case that we're talking about, the police officers took judgment and justice in their own hand and beat up this gentleman to his death until he died. And so we're going after that. They've been put on suspension from their jobs, and we're fully going after that. And the media is very aware of that injustice against this man who passed.
Well, and I always like to say that, and many lawyers like myself are embarking on a sort of media campaign, and hopefully someday soon we'll have a documentary on this put together with the many interviews that we've had with many competent lawyers like Mr. Agosto. But the media and the lawyers combined sometimes are the only ones that stop companies, that stop people from killing someone. There has to be safeguards, and we cannot let go of those safeguards. I know many of us out there are conservative. I am conservative. Mr. Agosto's conservative in his beliefs, but you can't be conservative when it comes to looking at people who have been injured. You have to say, what was if that was my brother, mother, sister, father, and all of us have certain rights. And from tire separation cases to the pharmaceutical industry now, to these BP cases, to this sugar case, to this bus case that happened. And many people, we got a couple of minutes left, but many people say, oh, well, they were from Mexico, or the immigration issue, and it's really hot right now. They tend to give less sympathy if somebody's from another country, but how is the law work in that regard? I mean, once they're here on our soil, if something happens, as a result of someone's negligence, somebody still has to be held responsible.
Yeah, and I like to approach that subject in this manner. Our Declaration of Independence that we all believe in our Constitution of this country, in this state that we all believe in, and we hold fast to it. We even go to war to protect it. It says in its first few words that we are all created equal. And when folks come to this country, we believe they're all created equal. And if someone gets injured, they should be treated equally. And when folks are injured because of someone else's negligence, then we as advocates for those little people and those families should stand up proud and loud and say they deserve justice.
Well, very well said. I want to thank you from all of us at South Texas Crossfire.
Thank you, my brother.
For you coming on. Benny, if you would, I know you're very busy. You got a lot of cases going on, but if you could give us another opportunity to come on to talk, I'd like to talk about children's rights and personal injury and articles you've written on that. And I'd like to bring you on again if we could.
Thank you. It would be my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And you've been listening to South Texas Crossfire. We're going to take a brief break for our sponsors. We'd like to thank the Impact Credit Group USA. We'd also like to thank Top Gun Paint and Body, and we'd also like to thank Vasquez Flores Home Health and all the rest of our sponsors, Rhodesville and San Antonio, doing a great job out there. And we'd also like to thank Abraham and Watkins, and you can reach them at abrahamwatkins.com or 713-222-7211, right here at 800 Commerce, right in the heart of downtown Houston. We'd like to thank them for hosting our show today and allowing us to interview top quality lawyers like Mr. Agosto. And coming up in our second segment, Randy Sorrells, former head of the Bar Association of Houston. We're going to be talking to him about medical malpractice legislation and everything else that Mr. Sorrells handles when we come back.